If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? Hey, CEO Mischief Makers, MKJ here, and I get to introduce you to a gentleman that I have quite a few things in common, but through marriage. So let's talk about that. Welcome to the conversation, Anthony Nitsos. Anthony, you ready to rock with this? How you doing?
I am. I'm curious how I'm connected through marriage on this, but that's okay. We can set that aside.
We're gonna do this. Yes. Before we get into that little tidbit, introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called SaaS-Gurus. We specialize in dealing with early stage software companies, SaaS as the term is known, software as a subscription or service. We usually come on and help CEOs sleep better, knowing they have all the right numbers, and more important, they know where their cash is going, and we're there to help them build valuations. So we've got their backs to make sure that their company is worth as much as we can make it when they decide to exit.
Fantastic. And that's where we're connected. When I say through marriage, my husband, that's his domain. He was, when he worked in his own business, was a tax accountant with his degree in economics and concentration in accounting. So there's a connection, because I think I understand a little bit how your brain works because I've been married to one for over 40 years. So there we go.
My condolences on that,
it's
okay. So I have to say right now, first of all, my name is Anthony. I'm a recovering CPA.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't normally do debits and credits anymore because I like finance, which is much more funner.
Much more funner. Absolutely. And, I got to tell you, my husband and I complement each other beautifully. He basically keeps me grounded, holds on to the string that I'm usually flying high on. And I kind of lift him off the ground a few times into dreamland with me. So we complement each other very well. So, all right, you recovering accountant, I get it. How did that shift? Right? Because I know we chatted a little bit offline about your trajectory and how life has been for you, but how did what mindset shifts did you have to go through to go from, and I know what your degree was, take us through that briefly, through to finance instead of CPA, which is what you were doing before?
Well, it really depends on what chapter of my book you want to start in as far as my life. When
let's
I
take
was
the most recent. Let's take the most recent.
Let's go backwards from the most recent. So the shift to go from accounting to finance is one where you're looking backwards to one where you're looking forward. It's that straightforward. I'm not going to say it's simple, because people who have been raised in the accounting world, that's what they were trained in, that's what they do, have a tendency to continue to look, oh, well, that's what happened. Finance is very much what's going to happen. Finance is, if I use my favorite analogy with my kids, which is the car, I said, accounting is the rear view mirror. You got to make sure you know what's behind you, but finance is the windshield. You got to be looking ahead to what's coming. And so the shift from accounting to finance for me was that. Now, in a way, that wasn't that difficult for me because I've always been interested in the future. I'm a science fiction fanatic. Okay. So the future is always something that, like you, somebody has to hold the string to keep me down to the ground. Same kind of thing is that aspect of it. So my mindset's always been kind of future oriented. So finance kind of fit really nicely into that.
Why did you choose looking forward instead of continuing to look back? Okay. So that's where I'm going to go.
It was boring. 2 reasons. It was boring. So I had come into this company to set up all of the finance and accounting systems to help them scale from 5 to 50 million in 3 years. right? So it was a very rapid scaling, and we did that. That's what, mission, and had the skills and the experience and did it. When I was done, there wasn't much for me to do. It's like I built this great big, very complicated mansion, if you will, but then what do you do once you're living in it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's very
so
different.
the challenge was over. The challenge was over for me. I had pretty much maxed out the accounting. I was a controller. I was a CMA, a CPA. I had all the degrees. I had a master's degree in accounting, so there wasn't much further. I'm not going to go get a doctorate in accounting. So it's like, okay, who's having the fun when it comes to money? And it's the finance people. And so for me, it was I'm bored with this. I've maxed it out. It was a great experience. It was absolutely a great experience. I took skills away and from mindsets away from that particular experience that I use to this day. But it was time to move into a different realm. And that's where finance came up. And it just so happened that I met, we can say I met a flute player at band camp. So I'm an amateur cellist, and I met somebody who was a flute player at Interlochen, which is a fine arts academy here in Michigan, world renowned, as a matter of fact. And every summer, they basically close the place down. A bunch of us chamber musicians get together and we play chamber music until our fingers bleed, is how we put it. And so she had came up with the idea. She was a professor, and she said, I'm gonna take a sabbatical. And I'm like, we don't do that in the accounting world. We don't do that in industry, but that's what I'm going to do. So I found somebody to rent my house, and I went over to St. Andrews, Scotland, where they invented finance. Adam Smith, the Wealth of Nations, the guy who invented economics as we know it, was a train stop up from St. Andrews. That's his hometown. And, I figured since the king and queen sent their prince there to go to school, it's probably a pretty good school. I went and got a degree in finance, came back, and that's what I've been doing since. I've been doing a lot of finance and have that accounting basis to that foundation to build off of.
So, a couple of things. Number one, we have another thing in common. I am also an amateur cellist,
Oh,
which you don't meet many of us in the day-to-day workings of the world. So,
no.
yay. And second, I love what you said about boredom. I never really, to be honest, I know when I get bored, I look for something, the next thing I want to do. And I get bored not every few years. I usually don't stay with something longer than a few years. Uh, I think my record has been now 7 years staying with the same thing. And it's because I get bored and I look around for the next thing that interests me and excites me. So I know you've definitely changed things that you do, professions, vocations, whatever you want to call it. Um, do you pretty much feel the boredom connection to that?
Not now. So
No.
I've so I've been doing this gig, if you will, the stuff with
Mhm.
finance, really heavily in the software world for about, call it, 8 to 10 years. And it started before then, but it's really heavily now. And the thing is that is different this time is that, first it was software of a particular flavor, and then it was software of a particular industry. Now it's software of a particular kind, which is AI driven. And so a lot of our clients are AI software or machine learning or artificial intelligence, whatever you want to classify it. I go back to HAL from 2001 Space
Yes.
Odyssey,
Yes.
right? I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do
I
that.
know.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting one day for ChatGPT to tell me, I'm sorry, Anthony, I can't do that. And the door goes click, right? Anyway, um, that's what makes it exciting now is that it's all these different industries. So it's not getting repetitious for me. It's not
Yeah.
becoming rote for me. It's like there's always something different. And there's a lot to explore in the world of finance. I think a lot more than there is in accounting, mostly because accounting is a fairly set of rules in a lot of ways, and you're
Right.
following rules that are already established. And in
Mhm.
finance, it's less rule bound. It's more, it's predictive, right?
Mhm.
So there are fewer rules on prediction than there is on the past. So it all just kind of fits with. I've always been kind of the dreamer, looking forward type from a mindset perspective, and so that's, I think, why finance fits me in terms of I'm not getting bored of it, because there's still so much new and more and interesting happening all the time that I'm not maxing it out, right?
Yeah.
I'm not hitting a limit on it.
Right. But that's the overarching, but what you do with finance and how you
Yeah.
apply it to different companies does change based on
Yes.
the environments and the new technologies that come. I agree
Absolutely.
100. That's exactly it. I'm staying in the same genre, the same overarching umbrella, which is conversational design, category design. But that you're right, AI. I'm part of an AI group that we are categorizing things and cataloging things, to put it very simply. And it was very difficult to look at a specific AI tool and say how I use that specific AI tool like ChatGPT and take use cases, because so many companies, so many tools that we use now are incorporating AI into their tools and their tool set, that I'm using more of the normal tools that I might use, but AI is incorporated into it rather than AI being separate now. It is, and it will continue that along that path for, I mean, that's the direction we're headed. So what is next in finance and SaaS, for you? What is the next mindset shift you are looking to create?
You mean for me personally or within the
Yep,
finance space?
you personally.
Me personally, this is probably my final gig. Okay. Before I go into, I don't need to go out and make money anymore. I can sit back and relax and do what I want. I will probably continue to do this in some manner, right? I have a lot of experience built up over 20, 30 years of doing this kind of work. And it shows in, like, oh, we should take care of this issue or whatnot. So there's that experiential. The other side of it is, I've been doing this a while, whatever this is, whether it was medical school or logistics or ERP systems or whatever it is in my checkered past you want to dive into. But long and short of it is, I'm getting to the point where it's like, you know what? I'd like to kick back and do the things that I want to do, not do the things I necessarily have to do. Now, finance is a want and have to. I mean, we need to make a living, right? And I've got a couple of kids that need to go through college and, want to plan for a nice retirement, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end, for me, it's interesting work. But I'm not going to disclose how old I am, but I'd like to be done in about 8 to 10 years. Okay. And so do I see this taking me that far? Absolutely. I think there's plenty to do here. Barring some bolt of lightning out of the sky or asteroid landing or some other major event that changes my life from the outside, I don't think the trajectory will change until I get to the point where the whiteboard that I set up with all the things that I can do after I retire, and after I filled it up in 2 weeks, I said, I'm not worried, I'll have plenty to do after I retire. I get to look at that whiteboard and say, okay, where do you want to start? And I can
Yes.
tell you where it is going to be. It's going to be in the realm of languages, and music is part of that. So I'm also an amateur guitarist. I picked up classical guitar with my older son about 5-6 years ago, and I want to continue that. And I also am polyglot, so I like learning foreign languages. And I have a goal to have 10 of them in my head before I die. That's on my bucket list. So when I get to the point where I'd like to, quote, retire, which means no longer making money most of the day,
Mhm.
is how I look at it. That's the mindset. It's going to be a mindset into creativity of the mind in terms of making music. And to me, learning a guitar or a cello is just another language.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.